the same and win their first Copa America. What a mind to win it. And Chile is champion.
Welcome to the Chilean Football Show on the Red One TV.
Hello everyone, and we're back. This is episode 4 now of the Chilean Football Show on the Red One TV. I'm your host, Tom Sneff. This is a 1-hour show dedicated to Chilean football in English, where we cover La Roja, Primera División, Chileans abroad, and everything in between. Today, we're doing a preview special for Chile's 2 matches versus Peru and Venezuela in this November FIFA window. I'm only joined here by Matias, Grez, and Daniel Campos. Alex and Nico could not be here today due to commitments, but you know we have lots to discuss. Chile actually just finished their press conference just 2 hours ago. Rueda was talking about several topics. We'll get to that later. Guys, how's everything? Daniel, I'll start with you in Chile.
Hi, thanks for having me, and hi to everyone watching and listening. Look, I think the general feeling here in Chile is firstly optimistic, and there's even a sense of, I would say, excitement, and it's always a tough one against, you know, your neighbor, your arch rival. You know, doesn't need any introduction. This is the Clásico del Pacífico, so you know, you don't need a sports psychologist or you know, motivation to G you up in the dressing rooms. It's Chile versus Peru. That's it. You have to win. So I mean, look, life here in Chile is all around football. You know, you talk with the taxi driver, the janitor, you know, or the concierge, or your teacher, and everyone's like, "We're gonna watch a match. What do you think? Are we gonna win? How much are we gonna win?" And some people are actually a little pessimistic, but the majority are hopeful and eager that it's going to be a win on Friday against Peru.
Certainly. Matias, how's everything going? How are you feeling for these 2 matches as well?
Good. Not quite as optimistic as a lot of Chileans, I think. Ever the pessimist. Quite nervous ahead of the game, but you never know. Fingers crossed Rueda manages to pull something out of the hat.
Certainly. You know, Chile naming a 23-man roster. Claudio Bravo is back. Guillermo Maripan playing at Monaco. He is back as well. Pulgar, also at Fiorentina. He is back in the nomination. Fabian Orellana at Valladolid in La Liga. The very, very important pieces that Chile will need in order to get good results against these 2 teams. Guys, let's just go really quickly, you know, through the call-ups. The return of Beausejour. He retired after the 2019 Copa America. Rueda brings him back. Why, Matias?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, he has been one of the most dependable players that Chile has had over the past decade throughout this sort of era of the golden generation. There's no doubt about that. But it's just kind of another one of those rare decisions that you can't quite put your finger on. I mean, this man he's well into his 30s now, mid-30s. He retired from the national team, you know, to make way for the next generation. And Rueda was actually brought in. One of his primary objectives was to bring through the next generation. And he keeps bouncing between this core group of young players that he likes to bring through, but then has lent on Beausejour again to fill that left back position. I mean, she's one of my favourite players for La Roja, so it's not necessarily he's not a bad player to fill that role, but it's just another confusing decision.
Daniel, the return of Beausejour is quite a surprise. He was out of the national team for it's been a year and 3 months. Is there just no better left back option?
I don't think it's a surprise. I think there's two ways to look at it. One, Rueda has tried and tested Vargas. I think I may be wrong. He's tested Mena. I think he hasn't. For Basso, Barot, and several others, and he's not convinced. So resorting back to Beausejour doesn't really speak well for Rueda and his technical staff. I mean, everyone, especially in the football media, constantly all these years begging for recambio, the change. And as Matias says, you expect that. I mean, this is a man, Rueda is a man that's been in the job for 3 years. So, you'd think that in 3 years you'd come up with a left back, or at the very least, ideally, 2 players per position. So the chopping and changing on the left back position is a worry. But the other perspective is, can he last the 90 minutes? I think all three of us can, answer that no, he's not fit enough anymore, to last the whole, 90 minutes. But he can come on or start and then make a sub. He does have a degree of leadership, experience, but he's not the same as before, galloping down the left and whipping crosses. That's not his game anymore. Or at least it's similar, but he doesn't have that speed anymore. He does have, the knack for positioning himself well and to, make quick offload passes. So at Laú, he shows a more defensive role. Is it good? It's okay. It can be, an acceptable decision, yes. But so no, it's not a surprising one. But yeah, Beausejour, to be honest, if we're looking to qualify to Qatar, Beausejour should not have been called up. But anyway, that's that.
Guys, I want to talk about a new list of forwards, something that I actually predicted last episode, that Rueda would have to call up new forwards, and he has done just that. Fabián Orellana is back, before being taken off the previous list. Felipe Mora, playing at Portland Timbers, he's given a shot. Diego Rubio was in the list, taken off. Nicolas Castro, the Chilean Norwegian. A youngster in Carlos Palacios and a veteran in Andres Vilches. How are we feeling about this new forward list? Obviously, we know who will start. We'll talk about the projected starting 11 against Peru later on. But how are you feeling with this new forward group, Matias?
So I'm quite happy with it, actually. I think Palacios especially is. He was. If we're not, calling up Vargas anymore, I think Palacios as one of the probably the most exciting young talent that Chile have in the domestic league at the moment. It's great to see him there. If it was against any other team other than Peru, I maybe would have said, throw him in straight away, just because this team has been so lackluster in recent games. Some youth and injection of spark, somebody precocious that just comes in and plays off natural talent and feeling, that would be the kind of player that you'd bring in. But obviously like Daniel said, the Clásico de Pacifico is very different. Very, very nervy, can be very tense, can get obviously quite angry on both sides. So I think maybe throwing in a youngster at this time isn't the best idea. Maybe save him for Venezuela, the next game. But like you said, Mora, I'm excited to see him play. I think we spoke about it recently. We maybe turn our noses up a bit at MLS and the level there, but he's been scoring consistently. And no matter where you've been scoring, if you've been scoring consistently, that gives you confidence. And that was just something that Vargas didn't have in the national team. And you could tell by that. You could tell by the way he played that was the case. So whether it's it's the MLS, I mean, we can all agree it's not the highest standard of league in the world, but when you come into a team that is shot of confidence, I mean, we didn't look creative at all in those first two games. Having a player that's just confident in front of goal and believes that he's going to score every time he gets on the pitch can make a huge difference.
Daniel, Eduardo Vargas is not in the lineup. We're still unsure if it was a technical decision or if it is because he just signed in Brazil with Atletico de Mineiro. Reuniting with his former coach Jorge Sampaoli. What do you think of this new list of forwards?
Good manager would not pay attention to names. Football isn't about names. I couldn't care less if you're Messi or Cristiano. If you're not in favour, you're on the bench. There's no names here, no egos. And Vargas is, I'm sorry, he's not in form. He's not good enough for the national team anymore. Against Uruguay and Colombia, he did absolutely zilch, nothing, nada. And his attitude, it's like, I don't want to be here. Almost like Marcelo Rios in tennis, no estoy ni ahí. I don't want that. And, well, that's another thing. If I was Rueda, I'll tell all the players, fellas, no earrings, fix your hair. It's just unpresentable, or tattooed, but that's another issue. Discipline. And Vargas, to me, I look at him, I don't know, to me, he's not a shadow of his past. And yeah, his move to Atletico Mineiro, I think it's a smart move by his agent. I think it's what he needed. If there's one coach that has really lifted him in his career, it's Sampaoli. He knows how to manage him and manage him and motivate him. Correction, it's not motivation, it's activation to activate him. So it's not really motivation. So if he bangs in those goals for Ogalo in the Brasileirao for Mineiro, sure. But if I'm Rueda, I'd have a good conversation with him. That's if Rueda survives the next two matches, because this is form, and I'm with Matias. The MLS is a competitive league. I'm not a fan of armchair fans who've never kicked the ball and criticize. Oh, it's only the MLS. The MLS started in 1995, and look at it now. Look how it's grown. It's a very competitive league. It's not easy. Remember, the top striker informed striker at the moment for Peru, Raul Ruiz, is also banging them in for Seattle Sounders. It's not easy to play in the MLS. Not because you're in Europe doesn't mean you're not good enough. So, and Mora's doing well. Now, the key is to transfer that to international football. Look, I'm with Matias as well. If Rueda starts with 3 up front against Peru, against Venezuela, you got to see, how we go against Peru first. But playing 3 up front, using Alexis, Mora, and Orellana, good. We need to play with 3 up front. We need to play offensive football. We're playing at home. So, yeah, it's good. And Palacios, if he can make an impact off the bench, well, fantastic. Bienvenido sea. He's in form here in Chile, and he's young, he's exciting, he's a bright prospect. So I think Rueda's done very well in the front third in his selection. I think probably the concern is in the midfield.
Well, Orellana is a funny one as well. I mean, this Chilean national team is kind of, this golden generation has made a habit of, performing better for the national team than they have for their clubs. But Orellana has been bizarrely the other way around. I mean, in Spain over the last few years, he's been, in brilliant form, but has never, for some reason, been able to transfer that consistently over to the national team. It's a really bizarre sort of, you have the complete opposite of the rest of his sort of golden generation that have been able to do it in the reverse order. But I mean, I'm hoping, you know, I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of the way he plays. And, you know, he's obviously 36 now. He's not going to have many more opportunities. I'd love it if this was, you know, his time in this, finally in this qualifiers.
And let's not forget, Orellana is the Chilean player with the most number of matches in Spain. He's got the highest record of matches played in Spanish football, and that's no easy feat.
It's definitely a very interesting inclusion, and one that I personally thought should have happened earlier, even in Copa America and earlier. But obviously, because of his age, Rueda was looking for more forwards. He now doesn't find that. Calls up Orellana, who's in very, very good form with Valladolid, the club that Ronaldo Nazario owns. Something very scary happened. You know, Alexis, Vidal, and Pulgar almost were not allowed to travel to Chile for the qualifiers. Not just Chile, but would have impacted other South American national teams. In the end, they're able to travel to come and play. A big scare for Chile. In the midfield, I think we get Pulgar back. We lose Aranguiz in the process. Daniel, just bring me through that. You know, you win one, you lose one. Of course, now you have to get a third player in to fill that midfield. But nonetheless, Pulgar is a very important inclusion, and of course the absence of Aranguiz complicates things.
No, I think you've summed it up, and you're asking a question, but you also summed it up brilliantly because, I mean, put yourself in Pulgar's position. He arrived late Wednesday night, getting out of Italy, almost like a fugitive. He was told you're not allowed to get out of the country by authorities. Ends up goes to, I think, to Paris and then London, or straight to London and then Sao Paulo, loses 2 flights. So the guy's been at hotels for nearly 48 hours, and in airports and on planes. So the muscles are tight, so he's been under a lot of work with the team physio. But Rueda indicated in the press conference, that he should be ready to play. He is a key figure. He is that anchor, that pivot. Aranguiz is out. It's disappointing because he was disappointing. Let's face it. Against both Uruguay and Colombia, he was average, and Aranguiz is not an average player. Aranguiz is an international quality player. So for his standards, he was below par. When Salida out, Pinares, at the form of his career, has been transferred to Grêmio in the Brasileirão and signed, and then flew back to Santiago. So he's on a high. And then we've got Vidal and Claudio Baeza. So, and apart from that, Echeverria. So at Everton. So you'd almost think in that midfield, you've got Vidal and Aranguiz. Vidal and I've lost my train of thought. We got Vidal in midfield, and we've got Pulgar, who are of international football caliber. Pinares has moments of brilliance, but he hasn't really come out of his shell yet. Yeah, so there's not much variation. Perhaps, as Matias indicated, with Orellana, it's a bit funny. Maybe Orellana could drop a little back, to create, to help create. But definitely against Peru, it's going to be it's Vidal's type of game and Pulgar's type of match. The first half should be a tough one. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be a matter of who stamps their authority first, and probably be down to mistakes. You got to avoid mistakes. So I still think personally that's my concern, the midfield, because if you look at Peru, they've got some really good midfielders at the moment, and they play well for Gareca. So, but we'll see. That's my only concern. I think up front and at the back and in goals, we're okay.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Vidal there, and obviously with Aranguiz missing in midfield, and obviously with the news that Alexis Sanchez had to leave training early today and is a doubt for the game. I mean, if he can't play, I mean, there's already, Vidal shoulders so much responsibility of that national team anyway, in particular when the team around him isn't playing particularly well. I mean, it was this exact fixture in the last qualifiers, Peru at home, that he, I think he probably had arguably one of his best ever games in a Chile shirt, where he dragged Chile almost single-handedly to a narrow win. So I think, I kind of get the feeling that if Peru don't water again and get a third consecutive 3-0, then I feel like in this kind of qualifier in Santiago, it's likely to be a tight game where somebody like Vidal with his quality could potentially be the difference.
And also, just quickly, Vidal needs to be careful with this, not to get one against Peru. Vidal has that bad habit of committing silly fouls in front of the ref, just pushing and getting silly fouls, So, and by the way, I'm just off the top of my head, I don't know the yellow card counts, but maybe we should find that out. But there's a few players on the yellow card tally that need to be careful against Peru.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel much better to have Claudio Bravo back in the fold. Arias is no longer there, and of course Cortés backs him up. With Caravari making the third goalkeeper. Bravo coming back to the net, obviously in good form with Real Betis. I think it's great. I think if Chile are to win, he has to be in good form. We lose Medel again for a second consecutive window, but Maripan is back. Sum it up, guys. What do you think there? I think we with such limited options, we played par to par with Colombia and Uruguay, and then we get these pieces, and then we get back almost, not quite yet, but almost to full strength. That can only be a positive for us.
Yeah, Matias?
Yeah, I mean, obviously yeah, sure. You mentioned obviously Bravo, and that's huge. I mean, his presence alone in that team, in goal, behind that defense, I mean, it can't be overstated. I mean, we spoke about it last week. Chile aren't blessed with huge strength in depth, in particular over this golden generation. It's been, a core group of 14 players maybe that have been able to perform consistently at a very high level, and Bravo's obviously included in that. And then the drop off you get in quality after Bravo and the reserve keepers, it is huge. So not only his ability, but his leadership, the respect that he commands, the way he can conduct the back line, all of those things are a huge bonus. And I went into those games with Arias and Cortés in goal, hugely pessimistic, just because Bravo wasn't there, and just because these two, who I think are very under par keepers. Yeah. And I mean, just having Bravo back fills me with so much more confidence. And obviously in front of him, he's going to have Maripan. I mean, we spoke about him last week. He's in a similar, dilemma to Sierra Alta. At Watford, he's not playing. So, even though Sierra Alta wasn't playing, he came in and performed brilliantly in those first two games. Is that going to be the case for Maripan? I don't know. It's always, in particular, when you throw somebody in to, not only a South American qualifier, which is brutal and demanding anyway, but you throw him into a Clásico del Pacífico, and he's barely played a minute all season. How he holds up, I don't know, but obviously we'll have to keep our fingers crossed to the rigors of it.
Mm-hmm. History does play a role. Chile has never lost in Santiago versus Peru. But Matias, you also mentioned there that Chile has lost the last two games against Peru, one in official competition in Copa America and the other in a friendly in the U.S., both 3-0 against Peru. Daniel, besides, Bravo and Maripan, Medel not being there, of course, and obviously no Arias. Mauricio Isla and Pablo Diaz running up the list. Now just briefly summarize, there's just the key names there and what we have discussed earlier.
Oh, Rueda is opted for, with the return of Bravo, Isla, Beausejour is opted for leadership and experience. I think no need for me to repeat what Matias said because it's he's he's on the ball there. Bravo transmits that level of leadership. Isla as well. Isla's in form, playing a lot of games with Flamengo. Maripan can be a doubt because he's not playing much. But hey, in the dressing room when you put on that shirt, camiseta de la selección, it's almost like a switch, it's you're living and playing your dream and you're playing for your country. So that's instant, motivation to get on the pitch, motivation, activation. So there's no excuses against Peru. That's the thing, and I think they're going to have that in mind. And I'll leave a question to both of you guys. Would you rather play good, play beautiful and not get a result, or play ugly and win?
The important thing is to win.
Ugly and win at this stage. Ugly and win.
Doesn't matter.
And also, just to mention, I mean, Thomas, you said obviously, Peru never beaten Chile in Santiago in official qualifiers. Chile have also never lost 3 games in a row to Peru in history, dating back to their first match in 1935. So if they were to lose both of those records, I mean, I think you could pretty much, Rueda could probably pack his bags on the way out of the Estadio Nacional, I think.
Could be one of the actual scenarios. Nothing official, but I did hear from us under pressure, and he has to win. If he doesn't win these 2 matches against Peru and Venezuela, he could be out the door. Exclusively, we said it here. Guys, I wanna ask you the starting 11, the projected starting 11 versus Peru in El Clásico Pacífico. Bravo in goal, Isla, Pablo Diaz, Maripan, Beausejour. In the defense, Claudio Baeza in the center, Vidal and Pulgar. In the midfield, Sanchez on the left, Mora in the center, and Orellana on the right. Matias, is this a convincing starting 11 against Peru?
I mean, whenever you're missing the key players that Chile are missing, it's never going to look particularly convincing. But I think, all things considered, it's about as good as it could look at the moment. I mean, I've felt that way in the past, looking at lineups. I mean, in particular, the last game against Colombia, and the team has, underperformed woefully. So it's another thing being optimistic by seeing what we've got on paper, but then when the actual match comes around, it's another story. Like I said, all things considered, a reasonable starting 11. But again, being the pessimist, not one that fills me with a lot of confidence. And that will be even less so if Sanchez is actually injured for the game as well.
Yeah, and also back to Matias's previous note on, the head-to-head record. If there's one moment that Peru can beat Chile, it's now. I think Peru is in better form than Chile, even this year. Well, this year almost doesn't count, doesn't it, with the pandemic? But let's look at the last year and a half. So if there was ever a chance for Peru to win in Santiago, it's now. So if Chile wins, it's massive for the team. It'll boost confidence. It'll be 3 golden points.
Peru and Venezuela are lesser teams than Uruguay and Colombia. Nonetheless, I want to ask you, are these easier matches considering, the not just FIFA rankings, history, and current form? And obviously, if we look at each of the rosters, name by name of the players, but are these easier matches for Chile?
No, look at Venezuela. Look at Venezuela, you've got Soteldo, played in Huachipato, played in La U, who'll want to, you know, play a great match and perform very well against Chile. You can't write off Venezuela. And there's probably even extra motivation for Venezuela in World Cup qualifiers. One, because they've never qualified. I don't buy into the whole baseball nation because they're big on football too. They just need to show it by qualifying at a senior World Cup. They've done it in the women's, they've done it in the youth World Cups. They need to show that. And also, you can't write them off. A lot of their players play abroad. And also another factor, given the social and political climate in that country, I think a lot of players really want to perform to bring some smiles into the country's, people's faces, something to cheer about. Yes, they are labelled the easy beats in the continent, but I don't think they're the easy beats anymore. And that tag changed, 10, 12 years ago. But are they beatable for Chile? Yeah, Chile can win, but only tight. The last two World Cup qualifiers have been tight, very tight matches. There's one, when Bielsa and Borghi in those campaigns, had it not been for Matias Fernandez and Chupete Suazo, we would have lost. So, but anyway, that's the past. But looking at the present, no, Venezuela are no easy beats. They've still got Amorebieta up front. So, they've got Tomas Rincon. They've got players with, European club experience and international experience. No, they're not easy beats.
I mean, I completely agree with what you said. I mean, if you look historically, let's say the last 10 years or so, all of those World Cup qualifiers, maybe more. I think I said to you guys a couple of episodes ago, after we drew that game against Colombia, I was very down, and I looked at the next fixtures and saw that it was Peru and Venezuela. And my immediate thought was, easy fixtures, 6 points. But obviously we're so far removed now from where we were when we were in these qualifiers for the last World Cup. Chile have been on a consistent downward trajectory since then. And Peru and Venezuela are two teams in South America that are arguably the two teams in South America that have improved the most over the last 4 years. And with Chile going in the other direction, I kind of had to, shake my head because we get used to the fixtures that you are expected to win against certain teams that you play quite regularly. And that's not the case anymore with these two teams. I mean, usually, like you say, historically, I would have been confident going into these two games that we'd get 6 points out of them. But now I'm not even confident we'll get 3 points or 4 points out of them.
Wow, I am sorry, guys. I have to disagree. I'm more confident about Chile because of what they showed against Uruguay and what they showed against Colombia with such limited options. Now Bravo is back, Pulgar is back, Maripan is back, and what they can do, and I have to think that respecting Peru and Venezuela, I personally believe that Peru and Venezuela are easier, lesser level than Uruguay and Colombia. Not that they're easy to win, but I think Uruguay and Colombia have names like Duan Zapata, David Ospina, Federico Valverde, Rodrigo Bentancur, which complicate a lot of things. But I think against Peru and Venezuela, Chile has, for me at least, Chile has better chances to win. But doesn't mean that it's ever a guaranteed 6 points. Guys, I want to ask you, who are some players to watch out for Peru and Venezuela? Daniel, I'll start with you.
Andre Carrillo, that guy's a machine. I personally, since the 2015 Copa America held here in Chile, I really enjoyed Cristian Cueva. Fantastic. Luis Advíncula, mate, if Peru had a better number 10 or a classic 10, Advíncula would be, mate, an absolute star. The guy is, I'd probably put him against Usain Bolt for the 100-meter sprint. The guy's a bullet. And then, up front, Paulo Guerrero, who's missing, he's key, but he's not in the fray. La Padula with his whole, theatrics and media staging that he's undergone. It's no fault of his own. But the whole off-field thing that's happened, it's really boosted the country. Who knows? Maybe he makes his debut against Chile and the guy switched on and you can't write him off. Personally, I think Carrillo showed it against Paraguay, his quality. And I think he's the most informed Peruvian at the moment in these qualifiers.
Yeah, I was going to mention Lapadula as well. Sorry. Yeah, I was going to mention Lapadula as well. Obviously, with Guerrero out, I mean, their main man, talisman, they need somebody else they can get behind. And I think there's been a lot of chatter about Lapadula since his call up and since he arrived in South America for these qualifiers. I've seen some Chileans already, slating him a bit. Asking who this guy is, which I hope doesn't come back to bite us. But yeah, I mean, full of immensely talented footballers. I think Peru in particular, their players are so much more athletic than Chileans. Chileans have never been blessed with a lot of strength and size and pace, which Peru have in abundance. So obviously that's going to be a massive factor.
Guys, well, actually, interesting what you said about Lapadula. It's really unfortunate for Peru, not for us, but for Peru, that they're getting a Lapadula that is not in his best moment. If they would have gone the Lapadula that was playing in AC Milan, that was getting in 7-8 goals a season in Serie A, that would have been one scary player to have. Cueva, Carrillo, they've done a lot for Peru. Never count out Venezuela. Maybe they don't have the most explosive names out there, but they've made a lot of progress in the last couple of years. Venezuelan players getting transferred to the Mexican League, MLS, with Josef Martinez, Rincon in Italy. Obviously, we talk about Soteldo, who had a breakthrough in Chilean football. So I think Venezuela, you never count them out. Even more so when they play against when they play in Venezuela, because of where everything that's going on there, politically speaking. Guys, to round up this previous show, I want to get your predictions. I'll start with mine. I think Chile gets 4 points. I think we tie against Peru and we win against Venezuela 2-0. I think against Peru it'll be a 1-1 draw. Yeah, that's my prediction. Matias, how do you think La Roja will do?
Well, this might be one of the toughest two games to predict for a while. I mean, realistically, I could honestly see it being 6 points. Equally, I could see it being 0 points, which I think makes these two games thrilling. I mean, for us, for neutrals maybe, but for us probably nerve-wracking. I'm going to go against my usual pessimism, I think, and predict 6 points. Anything less, and I think Rueda's out, so it's going to have to be.
Yeah.
I'm saying a 1-0 win for Chile against Peru. I'm not really good at predictions and all that, but I'm saying a bit of maybe some controversy with the VAR, with the VAR, with Chile with a 1-0 win, and in Venezuela, Chile with a 2-1 win. You got to consider in Venezuela the humidity, the weather, Venezuela at home. 6 points, but I dare say undeserved 6 points. I don't think Chile will convince, but yeah, you got to get over the line, get the points. Qualifiers are about getting points.
Interesting you say about controversy with VAR. So obviously we had a referee making his debut in the controversial game against Uruguay, and we have another referee making his World Cup qualifiers debut in the match against Peru, a Uruguayan this time. So what could go wrong, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
South American qualifying is there's nothing like it. you talk to an European, I don't think they would understand just how crazy it can be. But nonetheless, Chile playing their third and fourth games. Rueda is on the spot. If he doesn't get good results, he could be well on his way out of ANFP, packing his bags and a new coach coming in to start a new process. Daniel, Matias, thanks so much for joining us. To all the viewers watching,
Thanks very much.
stay tuned for episode 4. We'll be recapping both of these games, hopefully with the full panel back. And we'll see what La Roja can do in these 2 games. We're all very hopeful, and we'll see you there. Thanks so much.